Hello, good afternoon, and welcome. Welcome to the Sales Scoop. This is a show for startups who want to improve how they sell. Every week we tackle a hot topic in sales and bring you shiniest pearls of wisdom from experienced leaders. I'm Alastair, host for today and a co-founder of the Uplift Partnership. I am an ex-software engineer and computer scientist with 2 decades experience in sales and marketing, and I'm joined today by my co-founder. You mute there.
It would help if I unmute myself in this digital age and that you can actually hear me. But yeah, my name's Kiran Gill. I am a co-founder of the Uplift Partnership with Alastair, and also a business development expert. I've been in sales and in tech sales for about 10 years. And then prior to that, I was in finance.
Thank you, my friend. Well, delighted to be here for a topic that is very close to both of our hearts, improving deal closing, which we're going to get into very, very soon, right away. I mean, really important. Deal closing is so hard. I was checking out some HubSpot stats ahead of the show, and closing rates, they said last year, were at 29%, and win rates across the board for all their sellers just 21%. I mean, deal closing is tough, isn't it? What's your experience of it being challenging, Kiran?
It goes up and down, doesn't it? Depending on where we are in the world, what we're doing, what we're selling, what the economic kind of situation is out there. Deal closing either is easy or harder. I can remember when I first started off selling a long time ago. It was honestly so easy. Everybody had so much cash and they were buying everything. It was so easy to sell, and you hit your targets whether you wanted to or not. And then in 2008, the financial crash happened, and then suddenly no one could close anything. So depending on when it is, the time of the economic cycle or what you're selling, it can be good or it could be bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a decrease in win rates across the board as a result of that crash, but also then just the squeeze on the economy recently. At the same time, there's no better feeling than closing a deal, especially a big deal. It just feels like a validation of the company, of yourself. And as we've talked about, it's the lifeblood of any business, and certainly the businesses that we're working with. And the $1 million question is, what's the best approach to take to make sure that your deal closing is bang on? And we've seen that professionalizing an approach to closing through various methods is what gets results. And our experience in that field is quite strong as a result of our experience, but also companies we work with as part of the Uplift Partnership. We worked with Simidyne a couple of years ago and helped them sell a brand new product, their SDK, and delivered 4 times win rates for them and a 251% return on investment. Some nice words there from Justin. And we're going to pepper what we did for Simidyne and what we're doing for ourselves and what we've done for other clients throughout this show. But let's start by talking about where you see deal qualification fitting, Kiran. Maybe you could just talk us through this visual and where you see it.
Yeah. So deal closing realistically comes into the point where the client or the prospect is in the position of interest in the solution or the service that you're selling. So prior to that, there's an awareness stage where the prospect is still learning or trying to get in touch or learning about what they need. And in that point, we're doing our prospecting. Where deal closing comes is where we've got this slide is point 4. So opportunity, remember a few episodes back, we talked about a sales process. And in the sales process, we said that opportunity is a point where you meet the client for the first time. That's when you actually sit down with them or have a meeting. And that meeting is where the discovery phase, as they call it in sales, would start, or where you would start the qualification. It's a two-way street. So remember, your prospect is probably looking at you and trying to qualify you, whether to think, well, can these guys or can these people actually do what they're promising to do? Can their service, their solution do what they want? So there's a little bit of understanding both ways. From our point of view, from the sales point of view, Our job is to try to qualify the prospect, to find out whether they are the right kind of company, the right kind of people that should we be talking to, and are they going to make the decision the way we think they should be making it towards our solution.
Yeah, that makes sense. So deal closing, sitting across a couple of those big buyer phases and key sales stages. And, what we see through our work is that the maturity of deal closing could be stronger, right? We're about more than 50 startups have gone through our 360-degree sales diagnostic product, and the average score across deal closing is 45.7% across them. We dig into this bullet point, all these bullets here, goals and targets, all the way down to reporting and monitoring. So robust analysis, and they're at 45.7. We see professional services leading that pack, much better even than SaaS and IT and software service sellers, and at the back end, non-profit and charity and medtech and healthcare. Professional services, unsurprisingly, very good at deal closing. They're very framework oriented, and so those are our learnings. And there are three bits that I'm keen to cover, which is the before deal closing, the during deal closing, and then the aftercare. I want to talk about aftercare after deal closing. So that before piece is in prospecting and lead generation, which is awareness, cold, warm, and hot prospects. And that's really critical, because if you haven't got high qualified leads, then you haven't got any decent opportunities. Could you expand on that, my friend, a little bit more about what needs to be done before deal closing can start?
Okay, so we're talking about win rates here. So in complex selling, remember what we said in the last episode about complex selling. Complex selling is when you have to have multiple meetings with the prospect to understand whether they're the right people who want your solution, and whether you're the right people to deliver it, and they're the right people to buy it. So complex selling is when you've got multiple. So lots of us selling complicated tech or consultancy services, or we will go through a process where there'll be multiple meetings with a client to understand whether they're the right people to purchase our solution. Now, before that process starts, we need to make sure that our ideal customer profile is the right. Are we targeting the right people? Because if we're not targeting the right people, our win rate is going to be considerably less than if we're targeting the right people. And there was something that I spoke about in the last episode where we talked about buying window. So first of all, we need to make sure that we're targeting the right people to speak to with our solution. And then what we've got to do is speaking to the right people who are in the buying window who are going to buy our solution. If we can get those two things right before we even start going into the opportunity qualifying stage, our probability is so much higher. And that's all from preparation prior to getting to that point of opportunity.
And there's only something like 15% of your potential buyers from your market are in that buying window and ready to buy at that moment. So there's even more pressure to get it right in terms of lead gen and high quality. And actually the next episode, we're talking about funnel mix and how to optimize that depending on your sector in order to get higher quality leads. So that's exciting. So that's that pre-bit before deal closing, right? We need those high quality opportunities. Thank you. And really the core of it comes down to, we think, your deal qualification methodology, right? And there are loads out there, aren't there?
Oh God, there's so many. So those of you who've done any kind of pharmaceutical selling or have done heavy tech selling might know some of these kind of acronyms that are flying around. There's BANT, what is budget, authority, need, and timeline. That was invented so this was all invented years and years ago in the 80s when big tech started coming on the scene. IBM at that time, who were the lead players around, said they needed a way to qualify people to make sure that they were the right people to buy their product or the right companies to buy. So what they used to do is they used to use this 4-letter acronym called BANT. And that was because they wanted to make sure that the people they were talking to had the right budget. The authority was that, are we talking to the right people? The need, do they actually need what we have? And timeline, Are they going to be buying it in this quarter? And that's how it started. Since then, there have been all sorts. There's one called MEDIC. What is, I have to even look this up because it gets really complicated. What is metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, identified pain, champion, and competition. So it's getting and that came along in about 2000, and that was from solution selling, again, more technical selling. And I could go on for hours. So these are loads of different acronyms. They do the same thing. They're there to help you as a seller qualify the buyer.
Yeah, one that I used in the past, leading new business in the agency world, was Scotsman, and that was fantastic. You know, scoring 1, 2, or 3 on each of the 8 letters gave you an overall score, and there was various rules about going for a deal if you had to get above a certain threshold. So there's loads out there, and you know, we know several of them. We prefer something that is much more modern, because as you mentioned, these are all ancient, right? And none of them have been designed post-COVID, right? They're all not really, in our eyes, certainly in my eyes, not really fit for kind of modern selling, certainly not modern social selling. And you know, the things that tie them all together that are the same are the things that you've reeled off. You know, the buyer's need, the authority, talking to the right people. So they've got the same kind of DNA in all of them. And what we're going to run through now is how we see the world, the 6 elements of our deal qualification methodology, which is a kind of modified BANT, but we've got these 6. We're going to run through them. It doesn't really matter what you use. We feel that these 6 are more important for 2024 and beyond. So we're going to blaze through these 6 now, pick each one out and have a look at it. Let's start, Kiran. Number 1, engagement. Tell us about what this is and why this is so important.
Okay, so this is something that you probably won't see in the other ones. And why we chose this was engagement is so important. So even though you need to make sure that the person you're speaking to is engaged. Now, it might be a group of people. So you might be scoring several people at this point in time. What you need to understand here, are they in contact with you? Are they in regular contact with you? Or is it somebody who is basically not there at all? You're the one reaching out to them. You're the one who's triggering them. Or even better, are these people actually chasing you? They're the ones who are chasing the deal, saying, hey, Alastair, come on. You know, I want to talk about this. Because once you have that engagement level and it's high, you know that they're more in the buying window than they aren't.
Yeah, and like you said, that's something you don't see in the others. And the reason that we're leading off with it is, you know, things are so competitive now, and you know, staying in touch with multiple people is so important that without that, there's, you know, your deal is in real jeopardy. Let's move on to number 2.
So I think all of us know this need. Is there a need for your solution or service? Does the purchaser need your service, your solution in any such way? To be honest, sometimes it might not be that they need your solution or service. They might be able to solve this another way. So if we're going to be doing ethical selling, we're not going to try to convince them into buying something they don't need. There might be another way of trying to solve their problem. So what we're trying to do at this point of view is gauge their need. Is there a need for your solution or product?
And the way that we like to score need and engagement and all of these is across a 5-point scale. You know, everything from 0, your understanding is that there is 0 need, through low, moderate, clear need, and then finishing 5 out of 5 would be high need. That's how we score those 5, and like so critical. And I think some of the things that are important for us are looking at the number of key stakeholders who have articulated that there is a need, right? It can't just be one person. You've got to get that posse together, and I think that's really important. What would you say, my friend, on you know, how important it is that they're proactively going out? You talked about being chased in engagement would be ideal, right? We'd love that with buyers coming to us. What about their kind of appetite for proactively looking for a solution? How important is that?
Oh, that is the holy grail, isn't it? When a client comes to you and knocks on your door and says, hey, I've looked at your website. What you're doing is amazing. Please, can I buy from you? That means they've qualified themselves. That's why the weight of an inbound lead is so much more than trying to do it outbound. When we're doing outbound selling, and that's what I did for the majority of my career and still do, outbound selling is a lot more. It's a lot more legwork. You need to contact the person. You need to make sure that are they the right person. You need to try to figure out whether whether they're looking to purchase. Have they got the need? And you're doing this process. When an inbound lead comes in, you know for a fact, and this is why it's so important to jump on those leads so quickly, because we are moving in a fast world. So if you don't jump into those leads very quickly, what happens is the need slips away, or suddenly maybe they're speaking to multiple vendors or companies about the same thing. And if you've got an inbound lead, and I have seen this so often in companies, and it's one of my biggest bugbears, is inbound leads come in and no one chases them up. Because for whatever reason, I'm too busy. I was doing something else. Yeah. It's an inbound lead. That is the holy grail. That is the golden nugget. If you don't chase that one down, then tell you the truth, you probably shouldn't be selling.
Yeah, and that totally is reliant on sales and marketing being properly integrated. We see time and again that they're not. And so if that's happening to you, you're watching this live on recording, that's happening to you, alignment between sales and marketing, absolutely critical. So you talked about, that need and engagement going hand to hand, and that makes perfect sense. You're in touch with somebody and they have a genuine need for it. It doesn't have to be always face to face. LinkedIn brought shared a stat recently that 38% of sellers have closed deals up to $500,000 without having met the buyer face to face, right? So you can do these things digitally. Obviously, you want to mix, but that engagement online, offline, it's absolutely critical. Let's move on to number 3, the authority. What are your thoughts on the importance of this?
Well, you need to be speaking to the right person, don't you? So you might start the sales cycle speaking to somebody who might not be the right person to sell to. And remember, we spoke about this last time. Sorry if I keep on saying remember. It's like you saw the episode before. If you haven't seen the episode before, you should watch the episode before, because in that episode, we talk about how people are purchasing now, especially in large enterprises. They're purchasing what you call a kind of committee. So it's buying with consensus. So you're not making the purchasing decision yourself. You're getting everyone else involved in it, because if it goes wrong, everyone's to blame in your team, not just you. That's why what happens. So there's a crazy stat out there. What is your biggest competitor out there is no decision. 60% of deals, clients don't make a decision to do anything, because they rather not do anything, because the sellers have not been able to show a compelling reason why you should move forward. That's all of the companies out there trying to sell. So what they've done is, you know what, we'll stick with the status quo because it's a lot easier. However, when it comes to authority, if you're speaking to the right person, and the right person doesn't always have to be the person who's sitting on top of the tree. It might be someone a bit further down who actually has the need for the product, but their job is then to convince the people above them to say, hey, you know what these guys are actually doing is amazing. We need to look at this with more, and they're going to be your champion inside the company to take it forward. So getting the right person, the right authority with the right need, and you can see how this all works together, and with the right engagement, now suddenly we've got a deal that's moving into the buying window in the right way.
And I love that, trying to sell into kind of the grandparent. It's about helping your buyer's buyer, right? And you talked about the biggest challenge being just no decisions being made. Part of that is companies that don't have a deal closing framework and are taking too long, right? HubSpot reported that 28% of pros say that this is the longevity, the length of the sales process is the biggest reason why clients are backing out of deals. It's too slow, it's going on too long, and that's because they don't have a deal qualification methodology sorted. Let's skip on to number 4 out of 6, which is about demonstrating the value of your product or service. Speak to this a little bit, Kiran, please.
So value is about the ROI, the return on investment, the business case that you're going to put together to show the customer, the client, the prospect, whatever you want to call them, what you're going to show them the value of your solution and your service, to show them, you know what, there's value there for you. Now, remember, sometimes they might need to be shown the value, or you might need to convince them what the value is with your case studies, with an ROI calculator. You do multiple ways of doing this and in your process. And what you're trying to do there is you're trying to convey the value, and hopefully the person with the authority that you're speaking to will start seeing the value themselves, or start calculating the value for themselves, even saying, wow, you know what, actually, we could do this even better than what your numbers are, because this can be tweaked and this can be tweaked. And that's where the value suddenly becomes, well, hold on, if this is going to cost us 10 euros, 10 pounds, $10, whatever it is, but it's going to bring back in 30, this is a no-brainer. You know, this is going to make me look amazing. Why aren't we doing this?
And that articulation of the value is so critical, right? I think Gartner has shared that there's a 30% higher likelihood of a quality deal, so an ambitious or larger deal than expected, when value affirmation happens, when sellers can affirm and explain the value. That just makes it easier for the buyers, and know this is a challenge, because I think 48% of sellers agree that they really struggle with sharing that value. So that is hard, and things like calculators, like you mentioned, and our business cases, so important. Let's move on to number 5, competition.
Well, there's always going to be competition in the deal. And sometimes it could be from internal forces. The competition could be that there could be an internal, if you're selling into a large enterprise, there could be competition for the money that, you know, your department you're selling to are trying to maybe use that money in other places. It could be just a very simple way of looking at competition. You might actually have a competitor out there that does exactly the same thing as you, slightly different. That, you know, instead of having a blue logo, they've got a red logo, but pretty much it's the same thing. So do you understand the competition? Can you differentiate yourself from the competition? Is the only thing that differentiates you is price? What's horrible, because what we'll do is it's a race to the bottom. Who can discount the heaviest to win the deal? Yay! Yep. No, that's not yay at all. It's the worst thing to do. So you have to know the competition. So what you can do there is differentiate yourself from the competition before you even get to the point of start showing your business case, because you can already start laying traps or little, you know, surprises for the competition in places, and saying, there's a good chance you're going to be speaking to XYZ. But let me tell you, you might do it that way. There's loads of different ways of doing this. So there's loads of different competition strategies that I could get into, because I'm quite a geek when it comes to those things.
And the way that we score competition is from unknown, where you get the lowest score, strong competition is a relatively low score, and then challenging, you might be able to overcome it. Weak competition, and then the ultimate, the high score on our deal qualification methodology is none. There's no competition. You're through. That gets you the highest score. Let's move on then to the last one.
Oh, timeline.
Yeah,
timeline's so important, isn't it? Because the thing is, great, we might score highly on everything else. However, you know what? Our budgets aren't going to come in for another 6 months. Going to have to wait out. In that time, who knows what's going to happen in 6 months? They find another person. Maybe the person you're speaking to suddenly leaves and goes and joins another company, or retires. That's even worse, because now you have to start again. So timeline is critical. How urgent is this? How quickly do you need to move? How quickly can you make it? How much urgency can you bring into the deal as a seller to help your purchaser think, oh, yeah, we better do this quickly? There are ways of doing this without discounting, ladies and gentlemen. You don't need to discount. That's the last thing we ever do. We actually don't really do it if we can help it.
Yeah, and timeline, you know, critical, not as important as some of those early ones. Engagement, need, absolutely essential. Actually, we only have 4 levels within timeline. It is either unknown, it's weak, it's vague or it's fixed. And that's how we score, just 4 there, whereas other areas we give 5. There's more weighting to those more important areas. So that's it. Those are the 6 elements of our deal qualification methodology. And, so no surprise, we see working with clients that when we use a framework like that and we stick to it, and they stick to it, as Simidyne did, working with Justin Lyon and the team, that they're able to, there's more clarity, and as a result of the increased clarity in deal closing, the sales team had more confidence, they quadrupled their win rate, they were 3 times happier and 24% less stressed. So it works, demystifying it works in that way. So those are the 6. And actually, after there are a couple of additional kind of things that we track after those 6. Kiran, you want to just chat about the last few?
Unless these 6 are qualified correctly, I would tell you you're not ready to present to the person you're selling to in any such way. If you present, and if you use this as a barometer, and let's say this is all in the middle, that means you don't really understand the deal well enough, or you haven't conveyed the value enough. And if you at that point run into the position where you're going to start presenting your solution, I'll tell you this now, you're going to come unstuck. So what you want to do is make sure that everything is as high as you can possibly get it. And when you've got it there, you're then allowed, who am I to stop here? You're then, what you should be really doing at that point, that's when you're supposed to be showing, that's when you do your business case, that's when you do your presentation, that's when you do your demonstration. That's when you know that you're ready, you've got everything that you need. And that's why your win rates are going to get better. It's like trying to shoot at the goal when you know that the defenders are out the way and the goalkeeper's going the wrong way. Of course, you're going to have a better chance of scoring. Yeah. You still might miss.
Yeah.
But the chances are better. It's better than doing that than trying to, kick the ball from the halfway line with everybody in front of you. What a lot of sellers do, I'm going to tell you, because we can be lazy sometimes.
So as we chatted through there, these are the 6, and we score on these 6 in 4 or 5 areas. We also score beyond that in terms of how well the presentation is ready, objection handling, and close. So there's another 3. So actually 9 areas that we score our deals on in our deal qualification methodology. And we believe in this new approach so much that we have built that framework into our SaaS product, Revenue Coach. And you can head over to revenuecoach.ai. It's free at the moment, and you can load in your deals by hand very simply, and Revenue Coach will give you personalized sales coaching on every one of your deals using our deal qualification methodology. And that is at the heart of how we run our deal closing and how we help our clients and our customers to improve their deal closing. And we know it's an absolutely critical area, right? You've got to be you've got to be on your toes, and you've got to be fast and have that framework. And 86% of sellers struggle to adapt to the changing needs of buyers in that deal closing phase when the information starts to come out. It's really hard. People struggle to be dynamic, and using a framework, using Revenue Coach, using the Uplift Partnership, we're able to put that framework in place, which means you're saving time, which means you can use additional time to tailor your responses, go back with a personalized approach, and be dynamic. And the opportunity is huge. Like I said, Gartner states that, or HBR it was, that there's a 30% higher likelihood of a quality deal, so an ambitious, beyond target deal, if you can articulate the value during and be dynamic during that last phase. 2 more things for us to mention. One is a lot of the data that you saw today has come through our 360-degree sales diagnostic tool, which includes a full score and breakdown of your sales function after 75 minutes on the phone with us, some bespoke recommendations, and a revenue roadmap about how much additional income you could generate by improving your sales function. And lastly, our next show is 3 weeks' time, Tuesday, the 9th of April, same day of the week, same time. 7 o'clock on the East Coast of the US, midday in the UK, and 1 p.m. in Europe. How to make your funnel mix sector specific. We're going to dive into the science of funnel mixes and show some examples, off the peg examples that you can take for your sectors of how your funnel might be different. So that's next. Very excited about that one. Kiran, thanks very much for today. Any final, we're just about out of time, but any final thoughts on deal closing or something a startup or a business should do right away following this session?
Start deal closing. If you want to improve your deal win rate, it's the simplest thing you can do. The difference between winners and losers when it comes to this kind of selling, this kind of enterprise complex selling, is the ones that deal qualify are the ones that hit their targets. The ones that don't are random, ad hoc. They might get lucky occasionally, but they're not going to have sustainable selling. Yeah. So if you want to start being consistent, you want to make sure that you're doing it correctly, go to the website revenuecoach.ai, get into the tool, start using it. If you need any more answers or any more, got any other questions, please reach out to us. Always happy to help, especially, with the startups. It's so hard out there. That's the reason we're doing this.
Yeah, great. So if you haven't got a deal qualification methodology, go and get one. Come and talk to us. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can just search for the Uplift Partnership. That's us for today. Thanks very much for your time. Really enjoyed it today. It's a big passion area for both of us, and I'm sure that came through. All right. Thank you, Kiran. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you, everyone. Good to see you soon. Bye.
Till next.